Welcome to this video on disaster recovery sites. On the CISSP exam, you will certainly see a question or two about the different recovery sites. And that's what we are going to focus on in this particular video. Now, we have talked about disaster recovery planning, we have talked about disaster recovery strategies and where you might recover operation. Now when a disaster hits, we want to make sure that our business assets and processes are going to remain operational. Again, business continuity is focused on those critical business functions, where disaster recovery is focused on the assets that support those specific functions. So mainly what we are looking at is the IT assets, our information technology, right? The network, the server, the database, the storage server, whatever it might be. Okay, if the business operation is impacted at the primary site or the primary location, it might be necessary to move to another city called recovery site. This is also called alternative processing site. We would recover business operation in the event of a disaster or a major disruption. The idea here is that this is just used to recover. This is not used to move business permanently or even for a long period of time. This is only designed to move for a short period of time. Now that time is going to be defined by your system stakeholders or your senior management, right? There is no right or wrong answer for this, but normally you are talking just a number of days. You are not just talking week or months, but it really depends on the disaster, right? If you have a major natural disaster that comes through and destroy everything, then you are gonna be at this alternative processing site for a while, right? But if it's pretty slow, maybe there is a flood, after a few days the flood goes away, now you can maybe move operations back to the primary location. And these recovery sites are going to be selected based on criticality of operation and business impact analysis result. So what we are talking about here is what is your maximum tolerable downtime. If your tolerable downtime is 72 hours, which is 3 days, maybe you don't need to recover site. Maybe you can get it restored before that, right? But in this case, it is all based on those results. So based on the maximum tolerable downtime and other objectives, the first site you might choose would be a coal site. This would obviously be the least expensive because it has no computing equipment. There is no data. There is a minimal infrastructure whatsoever, and it's very low cost maintained. So you don't have anything there. It's just a room, a big open room. It might be like a large warehouse, might be an empty office building or some other kind of structure like that. Coal site don't have computers, they don't have servers, they don't have data, they don't have any other business resources. They are at the least expensive because you don't have to maintain anything. You just have to basically pay the rent, right? Or pay the lease on the building. So it's practical for just about organization. Here's a drawback: it has nothing in it, so it can take days or weeks to bring it online. So if your maximum tolerable downtime is 72 hours, can you check all those boxes in 72 hours? Can you get full infrastructure, all your data, all your computing equipment up and running in 72 hours? If the answer is no, then you wanna be looking at something like one site, right? Where you have pre-configured computing equipment on site, you still don't have any data, but you have basic infrastructure and it's moderate cost, so it's not too bad. So this is basically gonna take you about, let's say, 12 hours to get activate. That would be kind of normal time, right? Anything less, you wanna go up to the hot site, which is, we will talk about. Anything more than that, then that's when you want to consider maybe a cold site might be right choice, right? Any longer than 12 hours, maybe the cold site is better choice. So most of the system here are gonna have operational baseline installed. Most systems are gonna be power off, right? So to save cost and to also save life of the machine, they don't need to be running yet. So you do run the risk of when you boot up, some things may not restore, right? They may not recover and they may not come online. So typically your network devices are gonna be active because you have basic infrastructure but you don't have any server online, you don't have anything else. The idea behind the network is maybe you have patch server that's online, so you can push patches. Maybe you have a baseline server, right, with all your infrastructure, or maybe you are doing DevOps and you are doing infrastructure as code, so maybe you are pushing all of those new playbooks to Ansible or all of the new cookbooks to Chef, whatever you are doing. Okay, that's an example of what you'd have at warm site. So you don't have any of data that you need to perform your business. You have data for system itself. So to get operational data on site, you need to transport it or transfer it from the primary site. Now warm site will also have things like electricity, it's have HVAC, maybe even crack units, if you have computers in there, those kind of things. But again, you don't have anything really running, everything just kinda waiting. Okay, now if your maximum tolerable is pretty low, you are going to want to move to a hot site. Now the hot site's gonna have full suite of everything. It's gonna have all of your computers, all of your business and system components, all the assets, network, all of your system data, right? At least to a near real time. It's not gonna be fully real time. Maybe it's copied every day, maybe it's copied every couple of hours. Really depends on your disaster recovery setup and your strategy. But it will have near real-time data on site. It will also have full infrastructure. You have everything across the board, connection to your service provider, connection to your third-party provider, whether you have a managed service provider, a security provider of some kind, whatever it is, all of the infrastructure will be in place. But it is super expensive, it is very very expensive to maintain. So hot site can be ready within minutes or maybe a few hours depending on the personnel and the data requirement. Okay, so typically these are your multi-processing site. This is where you are doing multi-processing because you are bringing in that near real-time data, and oftentimes you are doing parallel test at the hot site to test your data, make sure everything working and functioning. That way, if something ever happened, you can just move right to the hot site and pick up right where you left off at the primary site. So again, when you are choosing one of these sites, is all gonna be dependent on your business impact analysis. What those result, what your maximum tolerable downtime is, what your recovery time objective might be, and also what your budget, right, what your budget, and also what your resources from a personal perspective. A few other option outside of cold, warm and hot site, things like mobile site. These are self-contained mobile recovery sites that are typically configured as cold or warm site. Now, mobile site, for the most part, they are smaller version of backup site. They are gonna contain all of your critical assets for disaster recovery. So oftentimes they are configured as a warm site because you are going to have computer installed in them. You are going to have all of your baseline installed. You just have to basically port the data over and then get up and running. So this could be in something like a small container. It could be in kind of shaping the container or a Connex. It can also be in a tractor trailer container, like a 18-wheeler kind of thing. There is a variety of way you can do mobile sites. and these are pretty popular because they are considered rolling sites. So you can basically put them on a truck, you can tow them, and you can take them anywhere you want to go. The other option would be a cloud managed recovery site. So this is basically just a recovery site in Amazon Web Services or Azure or Google Cloud Platform or whatever it is, right? In the cloud, you do your recovery site there. So these are typically warm or hot in the traditional sense. Now, the most important aspects about the cloud recovery site is that you have a service level agreement or SLA, well defined for service level, roles and responsibility, the service quality, right? We talk about quality of services and those things, and also the availability of services. We also want to talk about performance level, data rates, system loads, all of those things that matter to us from a business impact analysis standpoint. It's also important to understand that the matter is running from a cost perspective. So long as those VMs are up and running, we are being charged for them. So that has to be accounted for in part of the disaster recovery strategies. So most importantly, with any of the recovery sites, we want to make sure that they are geographically isolated from the potential disaster area. So if we have a disaster in, let's say, London, England, we do not want our recovery site in London, England, right? We want it maybe in Manchester, or we want it somewhere else, right? Maybe in Glasgow if you wanna go up to Scotland and have a good scotch, right? So that would be a great idea. Same if you are in the United States, if you are in Silicon Valley, if you are Google, or you are in Cisco, you don't want your recovery site in San Jose or Sunny Valley or California. You want it somewhere like Seattle, Washington, or maybe you even want it in Denver, Colorado. That would be even better, because if you had some kind of volcano, a storm, or something else that came through that west coast, that then being in Colorado, it would not impact you, right? So you can port over the continue operation. So it's good idea to be geographically separated. That way you are not impacted. Okay, so an example of mobile site looks kind of like this. Again, you can see right here that this is basically like a trailer. You would basically plug in it, you tow it from this area here. Here's the door here, and you can see inside where there is a computer right here, and there's probably racks all throughout. You can see the air conditioning here. This is your crack unit, right? This is your generator here. Pretty neat stuff. I have actually worked on this in my career, and they are very really cool, and they do a great job. So long as it's geographically separated, right? You would want to have this located maybe 50 miles away from your primary site, so you can drive, pick it up, and then move it to whatever or wherever you need to. Okay, you don't wait it on site, because then if the hurricane hits the site, then your mobile site will be destroyed, right? So again, geographical separation is very important. Another option is the shared site, where you are sharing it with one or more external organization. So you can do this in any of the other site, a hot, a cold, a warm, mobile, however you wanna do it. But this is basically between two companies or more that wanna share disaster recovery. Now this is not very common because you have data sensitivity issue and lot of other things, and a part of the shared side, you want to make sure that you have a mutual assistance agreement or MMA to define the roles, responsibility, labels of services, all those different things that come along with the site. This is called reciprocal agreement. This is rarely done, right? Not a lot of people are doing this because of the data sensitivity issue because of the legal ramification or system outage and so on. But it's not to say it's not done, okay? But this will allow multiple companies to use each other facilities for a short period of time. That will help with cost of options. It might help with personal because maybe we stuff in with a set of personal stuff and now we can both take advantages of those personal. There's a variety of reason we would do this, okay, but you just need to know this for the exam. So the bottom line is here, understand the purpose of recovery site and know each of the recovery site options, what is present at each of those different recovery sites.